In this video, we're going to show you how to use a sheet feature. Now, sheets are a handy way to organize your work where you can create sheets yourself and control them through the Sheet Management tab. Each sheet can have its own dimensions and settings, making it an ideal solution for when you're working on a project that requires multiple materials inside of it. So let's just go ahead and close out this file because we'll have a look at opening another. So let's go up to File and Close. And then we're going to go over to click on Open an Existing File. And I want this one here, which is the single sheet layout I've currently got for my welcome sign. So let's double left mouse click to open it. Just going to pop over to the 3D view, and there we have our single sheet job at the moment. And what the plan is for this sign is I'm actually going to cut this sign out of multiple different materials. So you can see I've got all the vectors here on screen that I need for each of my different material sections. And the plan is I'm going to separate this job into multiple sheets so we can make use of the sheets feature to help organize our job, and we can then organize those sheets into their own specific materials. And that will actually help us create a nice contrast with our sign, but also this will mean that this is now a multi-material project. So in order to then look at how we're going to set this out, we need to go over to the Sheets tab. So let's follow my mouse pointer over to the left and let's click on to Sheets. Now this is the Sheet Management menu. This is where you can actually add in new sheets, delete them or edit them in any way you want. And you can also access a menu at the top here, which has your sheets here as well. So you can see that I can add a new sheet here as well, and I can manage my sheets through this menu as well. Now, as I mentioned, I want to split this job up into different sheets and different materials, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the textures in the background here. I'm going to put them on a sheet on their own because I want to use it with a nice cherry wood material. With the welcome text, I want to put that onto a sheet that will be using white acrylic, so that creates a contrast with the cherry. The to our home with the arrows will be cut out of a black acrylic, so that will be contrasting with the white text here, and that will be on its own sheet. And then finally we have some MDF that I'll be using to cut out this border here, that will be on its own sheet, and then I can paint that up afterwards. So the next step is I need to create 4 different sheets and assign different elements of my project to those sheets. So first we're going to pop up to the 2D view here and click on that, and we're going to zoom out, and you'll see why in just a moment. And if we hover over to the left hand side of our sheet management menu and you follow the mouse all the way down, we can click on Add New to add in a new sheet. Now right away you'll notice that in the background here there's sheet 1, and it's up here in the top left as well, and I can rename this to the material that I need to use. In this case it will be cherry. So if I right mouse click and click on rename, I can call this one cherry. And you'll also notice that the X, Y and Z of our material space here has been copied along here as well, because that is currently the material size that I'm using. And you can actually edit this with the edit button down here as well, but we'll go into that in just a moment. Now what I need to do is effectively keep this sign layout sheet as my master sheet. This is the one I'll be returning to, and it's a safe copy of all my vectors. Now what I want to do is click and drag over these vectors so I can select them, and I want to make a copy of these on my cherry sheet because I'll be needing all the vectors to help with my toolpath allocation a little bit later on. Now, a couple of different ways you can actually move the vectors onto this sheet, one of which is to right mouse click and to copy to sheet cherry, and I can also move to sheet cherry if I wanted to move all the vectors from one sheet to another. But a much simpler way is actually to duplicate this sheet. So if I just go back up to the top here, I'm just going to click on the sheet here to make it active for cherry. You can also simply double left mouse click on a sheet on the workspace to make it active as well. And I'm going to hover my mouse down here and click on delete while that one is selected, because a much simpler way of duplicating this sheet is to simply right mouse click onto my current sheet and click on duplicate. Now what that will do is create a duplicate sheet. You can see it's to the right here of my current sheet. So let's just double left mouse click to activate that one. And we can rename this one. So let's right mouse click, rename, call this one cherry, press enter, and now we have our cherry sheet lined up ready to go. Now it's worth noting that when you duplicate a sheet, it will duplicate all of its contents from vectors, toolpaths, and if compatible with your software, 3D components and level effects. Duplicating is a super handy way of creating copies and making edits while maintaining the master design sheet. So you can see how powerful it is and why it's so handy to use in this case, rather than copying the vectors across manually. But with that all set up, let's click on F for Foxtrot on the keyboard to bring everything into our central view. And we're going to look at now adding in a new sheet. So again, let's go over to the bottom left, click on Add New. And this one, I'm actually going to go for the white acrylic. So let's get that all set up and let's press Enter. And this time what I'm actually going to do is change the size of my material. So let's double left mouse click onto the worksheet in the background here, so it's activated, and follow my mouse pointer over to the bottom here and click on Edit. Now this time I'm going to change the width for 18, the height to 8, and the thickness to 0.25. And this will only affect this sheet because we're only working on this current sheet and we're editing this current sheet. These changes will only apply to this sheet. I'm going to keep the Z0 position the exact same as material surface and the XY date on the bottom left, and I'll click OK. And if I just zoom out now, you'll notice now my material size has taken effect. And what I need to do is to go back to my master copy, and I'm just going to carefully zoom in and select my welcome text. And I'm going to right mouse click, copy to sheet and to white acrylic. Now that has copied it over to the white acrylic, and you may be thinking, well, the text is overhanging the worksheet here. Now what's actually happening here is that the software has retained the original position of the vector in relation to the XY position here. But that's easily rectifiable because what we can do is just double left mouse click onto that material, click onto our vector and drag it into a more suitable position, such as here, for our setup. And again, I can just click F on the keyboard to bring everything back into central view. So now we need to add in our sheet for black acrylic. So let's come down to click on Add New, and we'll call this sheet Black Acrylic. Press Enter. Now what I want you to pay attention to is the fact that the X, Y, and Z, or the width, height, and the thickness of the material is the same as the white acrylic, and that's because that is the last sheet that we had activated. And so it's taken the values from that sheet and applied it to the black acrylic sheet. And that is exactly what I want because in my case, this material is that size. So that's all great. So now we need to select our vector. So let's come to the Sheets menu up here and we'll activate our sign layout by double left mouse clicking on it. And while holding Shift, we're going to carefully select our arrow. And we're going to hold Shift, select our text, and finally hold Shift, select the final arrow, then right mouse click, copy to Sheet, Black Acrylic. So just to have a look at what that looks like. And again, we're going to position our vectors in a way that is optimal for machining so we don't waste a lot of material. So I'm just going to drag this arrow into the corner, take our text and drag it over to the left just above the arrow. And I'm finally going to take this arrow and put it underneath the text opposite the other arrow. Okay, so that's all set up. I can press F on the keyboard to then again center our job. And we're going to take a look at adding in our final sheet. But before we do that, we need to have a look at some of the other options in our sheet management menu. Now you notice there's some black circles next to each one of my sheets labeled here. Now what this actually does is turns off the visibility, or indeed turns on the visibility, of my sheets. So let's say your workspace is looking a little bit cluttered and you want to see only a couple of sheets or the one sheet. You can simply click on the black dot here to turn off that sheet or to turn it back on again. So you can turn all of these off and the workspace view will adjust accordingly. Or indeed you can turn these all back on and they'll be there ready for you to work with when you are ready to do so. So let's add in that final sheet, which will be MDF. So let's go down to the bottom left and click on Add New. And we'll call this one MDF. Press Enter. And I'm going to double left mouse click onto the MDF sheet here because what I want to do is now edit this. So if you follow my mouse pointing down to the bottom of sheet management, I'm going to change the size here for this to 24 inches by 15 and a thickness of 0.375. My Z0 position is okay, my XY datum is okay, so I'll click OK, and that is our sheet set up ready for our vectors. So let's double left mouse click onto the sign layout. We can do it over in the sheet management. And we're going to carefully select our border vectors. So left mouse click on the inner border, hold Shift, left mouse click on the outer border, and then we're going to right mouse click, copy to sheet, MDF, and there we are. Wonderful. There's our MDF sheet with our borders on, ready to go. Now, I just want to make some further edits. I'm going to go back to the cherry sheet and I'm going to actually delete the inner border. I realize I don't actually need this on this sheet, so I can just left mouse click and delete on the keyboard to get rid of that. And also, I measured my acrylic again, and actually I made a mistake. It should be 0.26 in Z, not 0.25. But I can adjust both sheets at the same time, because what I can do is, let's just zoom into our views here. So we've got F on the keyboard so we can see all of our sheets. So black acrylic is currently the active sheet. If I hold Control and click on white acrylic, you'll notice they're both selected. Now if I go back down to Edit, I can change the thickness to 0.26, click OK, and you'll notice both have been reflected. So I can actually select multiple sheets at a time if I need to and make any changes that I need to for the thickness, the height, or indeed the width if I need to. So if you're ever in a position where you realize that you've made some incorrect measurements, nice and easy to rectify. Now I just want to spend a moment talking about the Design tab, because there is a tool here under File Operations called Set Job Dimensions and Origin. Now this is normally where you would set your job setup for a typical job with one sheet, but you'll notice because we've got various sheets, it says various in the width, height, and thickness. Now what that means is, if you were to now put in a value, let's say for example 7 in the width, it would change every single sheet in the workspace to 7. So you'll see here when I put in 7, and if I look at the workspace now, every single one of these has been changed to a width of 7. So this is great if you want to change all of your sheets at once, but if you do want to keep your sheets independent and change them independently, use the methodology we outlined earlier where you can use the sheet management menu to individually change the width, height and thickness of your materials, or indeed select 2 at the same time and adjust them at the same time. So I'm just going to cancel out of this because I don't want to apply those changes, go back to our sheets management, and now we can have a look at setting up some toolpaths. Now rather than me go through each one of the toolpaths in this session, I'm actually going to jump ahead to a pre-prepared file, and we're going to take a look at the toolpaths that are set up in it and just talk a little bit about the dynamics of our sheets and our toolpath previews. So let's jump ahead into our pre-prepared file. So here is our pre-prepared sheet with all of our toolpaths ready now. To see the actual toolpaths, we're going to go over to the toolpath menu. So let's follow my mouse pointer to the top left, and we'll click on this icon to go to the toolpath commands. And you'll notice right away that I don't have any toolpaths set up for the sign layout. That's because it's my master sheet. But I'm going to have a look at my cherry sheet first. So I'm just going to double left mouse click onto that one. And you notice I've got some pre-populated toolpaths here as well. Now, at this stage, it's worth pointing out that you should always check your material setup in the top here on the set button, so you can make sure that all of your tooling and all your settings for your tooling are safe and sound for your particular machine setup, and that your material has been set up and your Z0 has been set up in the correct way for your particular setup. But for now, what we can do is have a look at a preview for our cherry toolpath. So we're going to click on this icon here to preview toolpaths. And you'll notice right away that the material here is in cherry, and if you follow my mouse to the top right, you can click on this icon here for the palette to edit the material settings, and you notice here for the appearance I've chosen cherry from the drop down list, so nice and clear as to what my material is. And I can click on preview to have a look at all of these toolpaths, and you can see here's my textures being machined out, and then after that it will be my pocket inlay for my text, and then a cutout around the outside. So nice and clear as to which of the toolpaths are where. Now you can actually change the toolpaths down here per sheet. So if you click on this drop down list here under the preview, I can now change to, for example, my black acrylic sheet. And you'll notice that again, using my palette, I've actually set this one to use a solid color, in this case black, so that represents my acrylic. And I can just preview the toolpath for this one, and I can double left mouse click the waste material in the background here, which leaves me just with my inlay material here as well. Now, if I now switch to my white acrylic, I don't actually have any toolpaths, but what I can do, because I'm using a similar material setup to my black acrylic, is to copy this toolpath across to it. So if I right mouse click onto my black acrylic toolpath, and I choose copy to sheet, and I choose white acrylics, I can click on that, and then when I switch now to white acrylic, you'll notice I have the inlay toolpath and a little exclamation mark, and that's saying that you haven't quite set up your toolpath yet with any data. So let's double left mouse click to open up our toolpath form. We'll switch over to the 2D view, and all we need to do is select our vectors, which in this case is the welcome here. The depth is correct here because it's matching the black acrylic, so all of these will be the exact same. I can call this one Male Inlay 2. This will be for my white acrylic. I can click on OK, and then I can simply preview that toolpath, and I can double left mouse click to get rid of the waste material, and there we are. There's our white acrylic. So quite easy and simple to copy toolpaths across sheets, especially if you're going to be using similar toolpaths across multiple sheets. And then of course we have our MDF. Now, if I just click on this to bring it into view, you'll notice that currently it is looking grey, and you may be thinking, okay, well that doesn't look like MDF to me. Well, what I've actually done here is I've actually set up my material colour to be MDF, but I'm using a surface colour. So this is where I can tell the software I'm going to be painting my material in reality a grey colour, but the MDF will still be behind it. So this mimics a scenario where on your actual machine you have painted your material a specific colour on top, but the actual material itself is still MDF. And you'll notice that I've got two profile cuts here. I want to show you the difference between the two because they're effectively the same toolpath. One is just a slightly shorter depth. And if I click on the first one, you'll notice when I machine that away, you can see quite clearly the MDF there in the background. So I just thought I'd make two of these to show you before I cut all the way through that you can still see the MDF. So a really useful tool so you can see one surface color, but the actual material color behind that as well. And of course, if I run the next one, which is cutting all the way through, there we are. There's our border cut out ready for us to utilize with our sign. And so once I'm happy with all that, I can simply go ahead and save all of these toolpaths from each of the individual sheets, and that's how you can use sheets in order to create multi-material projects really easy. We thank you for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.